continues. She's only 4. Such a tender age. I'm sure you wouldn't want to see any harm come to her, would you? Considering I know I didn't actually father her. My faithful Ginevra. This last was said with a hiss, a terrible sneer on his face. He held out his hand, and after a moment's hesitation she took it. He pulled her close to him and kissed her fiercely. Lucrezia could see Mamma's expressionless green eyes, devoid of any emotion, staring into the empty space behind Papa. Then her mother turned her head slightly and stared straight at her, and a tiny spark of defiance lit up her face. Lucrezia gasped and shuffled backwards until she could no longer see her parents, her cheeks burning with shame and something else. She thought for a moment, then realised what it was. Fear. Chapter 1. January 1880. Sara's boots made a crunching sound as they broke through the crisp surface of the snow that had fallen a couple of days earlier. All around her was an eerie silence, every noise muffled by the icy blanket that covered the ground. She was at the edge of the woods. To go any further was forbidden. She knew her mother would be angry if she found out, and hesitated. There it was again, a flash of brilliant blue as the dragonfly darted among the snow-laden branches, going deeper into the woods. Sara had followed it up to here, amazed at finding the insect at this time of year. She looked around, checking to see if any of the servants were nearby, then headed into the woods after her new-found friend. She went further in than she'd ever been before, causing her to have a moment of panic as she wondered how she'd ever find her way back to the villa. Glancing behind her, she saw her footprints clear and crisp across the snow, and thanked God under her breath. She ducked beneath a branch, gasping as some snow slid off and hit the back of her neck. She shook the collar of her woolen coat, trying to dislodge the snow, and shivered as some of it slithered down her back. The dragonfly darted back and forth between her and a clearing up ahead, its agitated movements urging her on. All right, I'm coming," she muttered, stamping her feet to bring some warmth back into her toes. "You don't have to worry about getting cold and wet, flying around like that." Sara broke through the last of the trees and stood in the middle of the clearing. She was surprised to see a stone-walled cottage before her, the late afternoon sun glinting dully off its grimy windows. The cottage had an air of neglect and abandonment about it, as if no one had been there for years. She walked up to the door and reached out to open it, expecting it to be locked. As soon as she touched the knob, it was as though a bolt of lightning shot up her arm. She snatched her hand away and rubbed her tingling fingers, trembling as an image, a woman in the kitchen, stirring a bubbling pot over the fire, the aroma of herbs wafting through the cottage as she sang quietly, flashed through her mind. Bewildered, Sara took a step back, cradling her hand close to her chest. She jumped as the dragonfly returned, passing so close to her face that she could feel the air vibrating from its wings. It circled her head a few times, then took off in a straight line in the opposite direction. Sara followed it, glad to get away from the cottage. She could sense it behind her, silent and empty, as though judging her worthiness to be there. The dragonfly headed down through the garden, and Sara stumbled through the snow after it until she arrived at a wooden gate in the middle of a thick, overgrown hedge. She flexed her fingers, relieved that the numbness was wearing off, and pushed the gate open. She found herself in an enclosed part of the garden, the uneven, thick blanket of snow hiding whatever was planted here, although she could see parts of bushes poking through its surface every now and then. She guessed from the bumps in the snow interspersed with flatter areas that it was likely a vegetable garden, with paths running between the rows of plants. Her eyes followed the dragonfly, a dazzling blue flash against the stark white of the snow, and then she noticed the fountain. It was oddly bare of snow, the veined white marble almost camouflaged against the background. There was no water flowing through it, and as she got closer, she saw a web of cracks across the surface of the basin. The dragonfly rested on the marble rim, its wings outstretched. Sara sat down, taking